While you are not paying attention, 100x meme coin setups are being created right now, and you are either positioning or are getting left behind. Today I'm breaking down the top meme coins that are hitting up, middle caps that are worth looking at, and absolute monster low cap gems that I think you should be positioned into for potential hundreds of X's. Stick around, because the biggest wins come from setups that nobody notices early. Do me a favor, press the like button and let's get into today's video. And we're kicking off with Farcoin, the biggest meme coin on the market at this stage. This coin just did 5x since the bottoms, and many people would say because this thing is very strong. I would also add that it definitely dumped heavily in order to be able to provide all of these X's. Right now we're sitting at 618 FIP, and I honestly like the short-term setup that we just have seen on this coin. We touched this level as a resistance initially, we got rejected, we spent some time, and currently we are going back up. If we close today on a daily above this level, I would suggest that we are going higher from here, especially in connection with the BTC moving higher from here, which I honestly do expect. I do expect upcoming several months to be quite bullish. Current setup is very similar to the setup that we have seen right here. I would bet on the continuation of the move up for this asset. I would say the target that we should be expecting from Farcoin is somewhere between $4 to $5 billion in the upcoming move up on the market, which I would plan should be ending somewhere around start of the summer, June, July. $4 to $5 billion seems alright from these levels, which is 4x from here. With size, it has very thick liquidity, so you can definitely enter with low 7 figures and high 6 figures and just expect this move up from this asset. Next thing on the list is Stroll, with a very classic expansion setup. We touched previous all-time highs, we got rejected. Right now we're expanding right after. We're doing that after the accumulation that we had in this area. I would say that this small thing is deviation below the range, and what we are currently seeing on this asset is that the accumulation that was happening in this region was essentially enough to push the asset back to these prices. I'd say it's a huge question whether or not it will actually sustain and move up from here. I would say it would heavily depend on the marketplace. It's one of the great mid Solana meme coins that people would want to allocate in size just to get a potential 2 and 3x. According to FIB levels, somewhere between 41 and 48 million are the targets that I would set for this thing to reach. And even from these levels, if you're entering with size, you should probably be getting somewhere around 70% from here. Especially if you were able to get into accumulation from these levels, you essentially would be exposed to a nice 3x with size. I think that upcoming couple of days are very important for Troll to figure out if we would essentially be able to get above this resistance in terms of the previous all-time high and conveniently confirm the move up to this region suggested by the FIBs out there. If not, where we can get rejected, I would say to the tops of this range. This would be your support, and what you can do is currently set limit orders at these levels. I don't think that if we are getting rejected back to these levels, we are going lower. I do believe if we are touching into this level, we should be expanding higher. And the interesting thing is that this touch might be a very swift one with just some whale dumping from these levels and heavy reversal right after. Housecoin just did insanely well recently. We have seen 7x's on the Housecoin at this stage. Very classic chart in terms of the expansion. Like this type of the pattern of the chart is the classic thing on how manipulators actually like the market makers, how they like to paint this chart before the expansion. Main expansion happened with Ansem mentioned this coin, and I do believe some things were adjusted on the market making side. I do believe that they pumped quite some money into the chart in order to help it grow. From the current setup situation point of view, the narrative for this thing is that Housecoin will be flipping the housing market, so it's very similar to the SPX 6900. In terms of the waves of growth, we definitely had our wave 1 here. I would say we already experienced wave 2, and what is left is wave 3, and I would say we're almost at the top in terms of the wave 3 of the growth of this asset, because wave 3 is usually, in terms of Sol memes, is quite close to the tops that the wave 2 essentially sets. So I would not be suggesting to be entering this asset at this stage. I do believe that your upside is quite limited at these levels. I would rather take profits and just wait for correction. The issue with this asset is that we do not have strong support zones based on the previous movement of the chart, mainly because it just expanded right here. So you might say that the first support is somewhere here, second one is weaker. It's not just this line, it's essentially this region around these levels, right? this would be your second support, this would be your first support out there. And we kind of touch it with a week already and we expanded from there, but I do not expect that this movement will essentially continue from here. So I would just set limit orders if you would want to get allocated into this coin at $51 million, probably like 25% of the bag that you would want to get into this coin. Then around $35 million, another, I would even say 35, right? And if you would really get lucky in terms of this, and like 100%, this will take time. I'm talking about weeks. If we're going back to 20 million here, which might be happening because it's hard to imagine the continuation in terms of this coin. At least we had our 3 main waves of growth, and it seems like people, everyone from the market who would have bought, they bought already. And I would put like 50%, 40% of your capital at the limit order around $20 million in market cap. I do believe this would be just generational point of entry if you are catching that. In Solana memes, the most important thing are your entries out there. Titcoin, something that is still expanding, and this is the chart I was printing a week ago. We are perfectly tracking this chart at this stage. It's quite easy to see that we're kind of in this parabola type of movement, and this type of pattern is the pattern that should be most respected in Sol memes out there. As you can see, just previously, we were also building up this pattern, right? And unfortunately, it broke down. So we just dump into first obvious support area right here. And here we also reaccumulated, right? This situation here is very, very similar to one of the memes I was showing before. The situation here is very, very similar to Troll out there. Following this chart, we are definitely at core resistance around these levels, and your targets, they are around $70 million in market cap. Current entry point is not the ideal one. Ideal one was obviously at the bottoms, right? But if you're looking for a 3x with size, this might just be the coin for you. The real question, will Titcoin repeat the movement of the Housecoin on the market? Pretty hard to say, but there are definitely big people like Jusu and half of cities essentially sitting in this coin and supporting this coin. I do believe it should be expanding from there at least to previous all-time highs, with the target of $70 million. 100 men versus Gorilla, something that is new on the market that just appeared recently. Very, very hard to do any TA on this thing. I would say that we essentially just had our wave 1. We had our wave 2, and what we shall be entering currently is wave 3. Wave 3 is not that explosive as wave 2 out there. At the same time, what you have on this chart as well, and what you have around this coin, is that it definitely provoked a lot of discussion out there in the market, and many people are saying that like it's going to reach the levels of Routine, which was like $20 million market cap. The issue when people are essentially saying that, it means that often it priced into the chart, right? And with this thing, we essentially had Ansem soft shilling it a couple of times, here once for example, and here the second one as well. At the same time, even with all the soft shills, it's not at the crazy valuations out there. I won't say that this thing would essentially be expanding like heavier from here. I think that the movement that you might be getting here is 70 to 80%. But you shall be very, very careful, and right after will probably be correcting into the support around these levels, and this would be a time to evaluate, because this is definitely a short-term trend, and I do believe that people are not buying much into it, mainly because it's a short-term trend. Like in several days, everyone probably will not remember anything about this coin, so I would say just be very, very careful with allocating and holding this one out there. Mid cap I actually like is Wizard. These are the charts that I was printing previously as well. We can see that we are in this uptrend support. I was actually thinking that we will probably touch it the third time right here, which I think might be happening here. Thus far, it seemed like we are expanding. Let me remove all of this stuff so you can see it clearly, right? Thus far, it seems like we are expanding. This is also a very, very classic chart structure out there. The question is, was this accumulation enough in order to push this asset higher from here? I would honestly say so. Let's take a look at core fib levels and figure out what type of targets we actually may have for this thing. It definitely looks quite similar to Troll. It looks quite similar to Titcoin. Kind of similar, people are pushing this one as well. It's almost like they're using the same market maker. And if you would wide up the chart, it also look quite similarly to the price action that is happening on Housecoin out there. So it's a huge question if we're actually going to see the expansion here as we have seen on Housecoin, for example. The target for this thing is somewhere in the range of $18 million, which is 3-4x from here with size. And these are type of coins I honestly like, because you can just put into them with size and just wait and outperform all the guys that are trying to trade new pairs and trying to be early and trying to essentially actually be buying low caps out there. We do have obvious resistance at these levels, so I would essentially see something like this on the chart. Reclaim and then eventually expand to this area where I would say should be your main profit taking area out there. For those of you who are more on the degen side, there is the Frog Mage, which is a better play to Wizard. And the narrative for this thing is that TFM isn't just a random meme, this is bigger than I thought. 230k on Instagram, 30k on TikTok with viral videos, millions of views. The memes are directly integrated in GIF, even has a shop. So why I'm looking at this better play at this stage is because it essentially was setting up local all-time high around exactly the date when the local all-time high was happening for Wizard. So the speculation there is that this thing might continue to follow the price action of Wizard out there. It's very low, it's very degen, so just sending here like 50 bucks or something may provide you with a nice amount of access. I just wanted to give it to you so you would just know of a play like this. Next thing on the list is RFC, and this one is very interesting because it was the one that kinda recovered meme coins from the depth of the recent correction, right? It went up to $140 million on the 14th of April, which definitely was like one of the fastest ones out there. As you can see, I have older charts here, and my assumption at the time was that we shall be recovering from bouncing from this core support area. Unfortunately, we went down, we went lower from here, which, to be honest, very default situation in terms of Solana meme coins out there. They often like to choose the most bottom support area possible. We have this crazy explosive pattern out here, which is expanding right as we talk. I honestly do believe that this should be the return and recovery of this coin out there. There is also a low cap beta play for this one that I will talk about closer to the end of the video. Following FIB level targets based on the previous all-time high, and assuming that this thing is actually going to see new all-time high, the target for this thing is somewhere in the range of $230 million, which is quite crazy to even imagine from these levels, because it's like an 8x from these levels. Your default target should be a bounce to at least at $44 million, where you should be able to take at least half of your money or just take out initials, right? You would be still up around 70% out here, and then you would have a free back to essentially just ride this wave higher if we are not getting rejected here, and if we are actually continuing from these levels, right? Because the case might be is that we also touch this level and we are just getting rejected and the coin dies out there, right? However, I do believe that there is a very high chance that we shall be coming at least into this area that served as support recently, and right now it's a huge resistance out there. I also gave this call this morning in my private Discord when the coin was at $24 million. And these are the type of the entries that I think you should be looking for on all of these memes. Since this point, just a couple hours later, it's up from 15 to 20% out there on the chart. Let's see how it will be expanding further. Squeeze out there on the chart, printing something very similar to cup and handle pattern, something very similar that we have seen on the chart of the Farcoin before the major reversal, I would say. And it's almost like we were at the bottom of the handle formation, which is generally the best time to entry, right? This pattern is bullish, so what I would expect to see from here is expansion, the further expansion out there. Interesting thing is that I would say we kind of went through most of the resistance out there, so this was the core resistance on this chart. Right now we are printing this cup and handle pattern for this core resistance in terms of the chart. Right after would only have like one level around 20 to $25 million, and right after it should be very strict, and it should be very fast to the previous all-time highs from my point of view. So it's interesting that it's like kind of short-term meme coin that was able to survive, right? The targets, I would say, if we are seeing new all-time highs and somewhere around the level of $96 million, which is a 9x from here, which is nice, which is pretty insane, right? But that's a positive scenario. Right now, I would say that the conservative one is that we're going from these levels to the next resistance, which is a 2x, which would be pretty nice for you to get into at these levels and take out initials and ride risk-free to whatever targets this thing actually going to have up there in the future. Now we're coming to the good stuff. Now we're coming to the low cap stuff. Tonic. Tonic is liked by people I follow in the meme coin space. Recently this pump was caused because DGN, Farcoin whale on a bunch of coin out there actually called this one as well. We do see the expansion on a range of bonk ecosystem meme coins out there, right? And this morning in my private Discord, I also actually gave a call to buy at these levels. And we are back breakdown. So I would say right now is the best entry point if you believe that this trend line. $280,000 was the market cap right here, right? And right now we were up 2x. So the guys that were able to leverage this information in the private Discord, they were able to take out the initials, and right now they're essentially riding this risk-free. I do believe honestly this thing should be expanding higher. Huge potential from this thing from my point of view. Next thing is type sheet, something that I also bought just recently. It's being pushed by FOMO. He's soft shilling it on his X at this stage. It's been shilled by a lot of type sheet I'm on right here, right? It's been shilled a lot of interesting people on the market that definitely know this space. The only thing I can outline here is that it's definitely a new thing. No one talks about it yet, and we should be at the start of the parabola formation at this stage, and right now we are definitely at the core upcoming trend line out here. I would say you either top blast right here, right, or essentially wait until we retouch this area again. So something like this I might be expecting, that we're essentially retouching this at 180k market cap. Next thing on the list is Ethard. Ethard is essentially a better play to RFC, so I would say that the performance of this thing would heavily depend on whether or not RFC is recovering. I do believe RFC should be recovering from these levels, and it has a pretty interesting narrative. Speaking of FOMO, at the same time he has this as the banner on his X page, so he might be pushing it further. I do like the formation, honestly, that we're seeing here on this chart. To me, it looks like a very high chance a reversal formation out there, and I do like that we are slightly above this level. So people generally like, if we were on leverage and if leverage would be applicable for this coin, I would say 100%. Like, this is somewhere I would put the chart into as a market maker, just to make sure I sweep all this liquidity. Obviously this thing is not all leverage, but I think it's a very, very nice psychological level out there. Last but not least, something I want to talk about is Yi. I do like the chart of Ethard more than the chart of Yi. Yi pretty much just dumped to the bottommost support line that only is present on this chart, and it's insane with these soul memes, because as you can see, I was essentially thinking that we might be reversing from here. I was thinking we might be reversing from here. I was thinking we might be reversing from here, and now we actually dumped to the bottommost support line for this thing. Narrative for this thing is crazy. I actually rebought and do hold myself. Let's see how this thing will do. It's definitely not in the focus of the general market out there, but it also, this one coin, one of the small list of coins that started the rebirth of meme coins on Solana, memes 2.0. So we'll see how it will end up eventually. Thank you very much for watching this one. Stay healthy and rich. Press the like button if you received any value from this video, and I shall be seeing you tomorrow. Bye bye.